Welcome back. Today we have an extra special treat for everybody. She is an entrepreneur. She is Maine born and bred. She is behind some of the biggest brands in the state and elsewhere. She is a founding member of Maine's Woman Connection, a nonprofit helping women connect in the industry. She is behind the brand Elevate, which is a functional mushroom company. I am so glad to have my guest on today, Haley, pronouncing the K, Knaub. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have you on. You know, I've seen what you've been doing for a while now, and I've been a fan, and you know, we were connected, by a mutual acquaintance, a mutual friend, and I'm just really glad to have you in here. You do a lot for the community, you do a lot for people, and I'm kind of excited to dig into that story.
Thank you. I mean, you do the same, so I'm also very grateful to be here talking with you.
Oh, we like to call that a giddy up. Awesome. So my first question is, what got Haley into the cannabis market?
So cannabis I got into about 10 or 15 years ago. I started to grow with two people. It actually wasn't very successful. And I then moved to open blast extractions. I was doing this before they had a lot of closed loop systems and different methods for extraction. I then started working with zero gravity on the grow side, and then started utilizing my marketing degree and kind of helped them build their brand out in the state of Maine. I then started Earth Air Cannabis, my own brand. Kind of did outdoor growing because we just wanted to save on electric costs. And then that kind of trickled into the Maine Women's Connection, which started off as Maine Women's Cannabis Connection. We had to take the cannabis out because we couldn't get nonprofit status. So we just try to do the best we can for uplifting women in the industry.
Yeah, you seem like a pioneer. You tell me 10, 15 years ago, and you were a woman. You know, it's funny. It's like when you think of, you called it an open blast extraction. I'm kind of curious what that even means. But
dangerous.
Dangerous. Yeah, it's definitely.
I almost
dangerous.
Blew up a house, and that was the end of that career path. So.
Okay, giddy up.
Yeah.
So and that's how using those gases and stuff that was a big risk, and they did have to figure out the closed loop systems, which is now industry standard, and anybody who's doing open blast extractions is you probably don't want to get your cannabis from them.
No,
I don't think.
Please don't.
So that's amazing because it's such you can tell me, but I felt like it was such a male dominated industry.
Mm-hmm. It definitely always has been. And honestly, the men have been great in the industry that I've worked with. I will say it's a little harder to gain respect being a woman showing up. You have to work a little bit harder to gain that respect. Speak up, advocate for yourself. Those are the things that you have to do that are a little bit different. People might not necessarily think that you're going to be able to sell as well as a male. You might get hit with higher prices and need to negotiate and talk it down. And that's just stuff I got used to from an early age.
Yeah. Okay. Would you feel like comfortable when you were going to work? Cause you were so, this is what you wanted to do. And you said, I'm trying to, cause this is when it was just becoming legal, or about, maybe it had been legal for a little bit longer. 2008 is when it got legal in Maine, right? And then, but the caregiver program, kind of took a little while to get going. So, when you were showing up to work, were you the only lady?
Yes. Honestly, I don't even think like that. I have ADHD. I don't really think of the consequences for what I'm doing. I don't think there's not a lot of forethought. I come in and do what I want to do and what excites me and what I have passion for. And I tend to not think about some of the risks that other people do.
Yeah, and people definitely, see a lot of risk and saw a ton of risk in cannabis, like me included. It's like it's a part of my business now, and I still think it's risky, because it's it's a perception that people have of the brand, and I'm not just a cannabis company, I'm a wellness company, and I do a lot of different things. So I agree. It's I don't think the stigma should exist. I think that it's a great medicinal product, and it's helped so many people. Is that what kind of drove you into seeing it? Did you or did that have any effect basically when seeing how helpful it was to people?
Absolutely. I mean, that for me with both cannabis and mushrooms, it's very easy for me to not think about that because I see the positive benefits that it has towards people. And it kind of blows my mind that it's illegal to begin with. I mean, we have the pharmaceutical drugs that are allowed to be promoted and put on ads in the United States, let alone it's very hard to find information or research done on mushrooms, something that's been in ancient Chinese medicine for thousands of years. So, it makes it pretty easy for me to not think about it.
There is definitely manipulation happening, big time with science and the way that we do peer-reviewed studies and making it. A lot of it's good because like you do need those type of studies on large scale to show if something works. But like on the other end of it, like anecdotal evidence where it's working in people, veterans and people who wanted, bad mental health, and now they're using mushrooms and, functional mushrooms and psychedelic mushrooms, and they're healing themselves. It's pretty incredible.
Right. It's all about prevention, cognitive function, your immune system. There's just so many benefits that are out there that people aren't able to access this information or they don't know about it. And I think there's been a push in the past few years. It's gotten quite a bit trendier and more popular due to people speaking up about it online and different research that's coming out. But it's just kind of been a long path to get information out that should already exist.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And there's like studies that like you said, there wasn't many studies that were being done, but there's starting to be, more studies, and, they're starting to, decriminalize it and legalize, psilocybin in certain jurisdictions. So, that's a whole other, I think we'll get into that. That's a whole other thing. What's happening like in Oregon and in Colorado, and the method that they're trying to take, the way that they're trying to create the industry. It's not great. It's not working. So I think what you guys are doing is working. So it's great. When did you start to like experience, build when did you start your own company in cannabis? Like when did you want to go off on your own? And was that always the goal?
Well, so when I did the first grow I ever did, I was a partner. In the blast extraction, I was a partner as well. Then when I started working for Zero Gravity Cannabis, I was helping them build, and I just kind of saw an opportunity. I was like, okay, wow, doing this, I'm able to make other people a lot of money. Why am I not doing it for myself? Like, what's holding me back from doing this on my own? And there wasn't really anything. So I just I'd already had the idea for the brand for years. I'm somebody who's always thinking and creating. I love brand concepting. So I kind of already had it in mind. And then I just said, let's go for it. I got some land with my dad and kind of just went full force into it while still working for Zero Gravity and trying to build them out, both in Maine and different regions by getting exposure for their brand all over.
That's awesome. Did you grow on your own on that land? Was it you who was growing?
Yeah, I was one of the growers. Yes,
it's amazing.
Yeah, I've grown indoor, outdoor, greenhouse. But I will say, growing is not only exhausting, but it's a lot of work for. I mean, it's difficult. It's a lot harder than people think. You don't just throw the plants in the ground and they grow. There's so much to it. I've learned so much. And I'm still nowhere near where I would need to be to run a massive operation. People are still finding out new information or new ways to grow each day.
Yeah, I wonder what it's going to be like in the future. How people are going to be growing. I think we've probably figured out some of the best ways already, and we'll always revert back to maybe we shouldn't grow. Maybe we should grow in soil. Already we're seeing that people the outdoor grows are the people who are winning, right. And people who are doing better in the market. Some of the indoor grows are still doing great and they're creating a great product, but people who have, figured out that I need to get region specific seeds and, grow region specific bud outside, and that's going to really help me and drive my costs down. I don't know the cost difference because I'm not a grower, but I know that it's significant between running an indoor operation versus running an outdoor operation.
Absolutely. Huge difference for sure. But I mean, you do have stuff that you have to look out for in Maine. Mold is a huge issue. I mean, there's just so many different factors with growing that I kind of stay far away from growing now. But it's crazy because what I hope that they can do is find a way to mass produce, but have the quality of the buds still feel and taste boutique. And nobody's really been able to accomplish that from my perspective. I personally still buy from local growers that only do 30 to 60 plants. And that's where the high quality product is, that you know what's in it. You don't have to worry about pesticides or different other contaminants in your product. And I'm personally not one to want to smoke something that isn't good for you.
Yeah, I think a lot of us don't want to, smoke what's what's good for, or want to smoke what's good for us. And especially when you're smoking, like, that route of administration is super important to make sure you're not having a bunch of pesticide bullshit, because it's through your lungs. So it's going to be pretty quick. Bad things can happen pretty quickly.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of info coming out about people's products being tested and what's really in it. And it kind of blows my mind that on the rec side, you have to test everything, but on the med side, they haven't yet implemented that. And to me, that's bizarre, because the med side is you're getting a prescription. You need a medical card to obtain it. So to me, I think there should be testing all across the board on both sides.
Yeah, I agree. I think we had, a gentleman who owns a lab on the show before, and he had a really good idea, because, like, the medical buyers, like, if that did happen, very quickly the adult use market would almost completely take out the medical. You'd have your patients, but they're just only the really, really good companies who are really tight and really know how to run a good business are going to survive that, because the cost is going to increase. The cost is so much to increase to actually get them into, like, the metric system. Like, it's such a headache. I was talking with an operator the other day that just went from medical and now is doing just doing adult use, and he told me that, like, he was always testing. He still is testing, but the way that the timing that you have to do, the batching, because the cost is so so different. So you just have to have things really dialed in. So I think it would be better if, like, they had to test. They had to test and show what everything was on there, but it wasn't done through metric.
Well, yeah, you're testing product that's going to go into people's lungs. So the way that I see it is that it shouldn't cost so much, first off, to get testing done, which I also understand that there's a lot of cost to these facilities. But at the same time, when you're paying anywhere from $300 to $500 for one full panel test, and you have to do it for each strain, that adds up. In addition to the taxes that they're expecting from cannabis companies, it's not realistic. And it's not, people that are making these laws and putting these regulations in place do not have the slightest idea about cannabis or what's going on, or the business side of it, because it's all so new. Yeah,
but so you think that's on the test? Do you think it's on, like, the testing companies to become cheaper?
Well, I don't know how they would go about that, because I don't think that they can afford to go cheaper.
Right, they're probably charging what they're going to get.
Right, that's where the state should come in, or taxes shouldn't be as high, so people are able to spend more on that.
Yeah, or taxes should go, some of that tax money should be diverted to, give grants to these, these labs, because you want to create a safe, healthy population. Like, that's what all state governments should be focused on.
Right. Yeah, the cannabis market in Maine and in a few other regions is kind of scary right now, because it's hard to compete with different other, people that are growing super large scale, that have large investment money. A lot of the small business owners are being put out or unable to compete anymore. A lot of my friends that had cannabis companies are now working second jobs to keep their cannabis company afloat. And that just doesn't feel right and true to the state of Maine, who's about community and building businesses within mom and pop shops. And so it's just kind of sad to watch what happened in our state. And I hope that other states can learn from it and implement different laws and regulations in order to not have a bunch of people end up in the same positions that we're all in.
It's so sad. Maine has the premier, I think, like, the premier medical, it had, like, the premier medical program in the country, I felt like. And now but it's a double-edged sword, because we want these people to test, and then we also want things to be, for them to be able to exist and for them to be able to do their, and the system that exists right now is metric. That's what everyone's
Right.
using. So if a better system existed, someone could create a better system, but I don't think that's going to happen. So it's like, I agree. I don't think it's going to go backwards. Do you think
Right.
that a lot of your friends will end up like selling their businesses? And
I think a lot of people are looking to sell or to switch and do other things. It's just a lot of them got the business knowledge that they needed getting into cannabis, and now are going to take it into a different industry.
is that industry going to be mushrooms?
I think a lot of people are going to kind of shift in towards mushrooms, but I think there's a lot of benefits to combining both functional mushrooms as well as cannabis or CBD. So I do think there's going to be a slight shift towards that, but the mushroom market is already highly, extremely saturated. It already is. People who really wanted to make that shift should have done it years ago. It's just, you can get product for so low anywhere. It's just already basically what happened to the cannabis industry with market saturation. It kind of happened for mushrooms in about a third or a fourth of the time.
This is with functional mushrooms.
Both, yeah.
But I knew definitely with both and the psychedelic, I've seen that happen, for sure. But with functional mushrooms, I'm surprised by that as well. But it also makes sense because like mushrooms are easy to grow, compared to cannabis.
Absolutely.
Compared to a lot of other things. If you have a person who understands a sterile environment and understands a little bit about, mushrooms, that it's pretty easy to get started.
It is, and the turnaround time is faster. So there's like a lot more to it than people know. But if you have had a lot of experience growing mushrooms, then I would think that would be a great way to enter the market. But it is also, like I said, extremely saturated across the board.
So you said like the people who are growing, who are growing functional mushrooms, like, so that's completely people who are growing, that's a completely saturated market where you're not, you're able to get product for, I'm curious because I know how cheap psychedelic mushrooms are, and I know, and I've seen that price come way down, over the last 3 years. But the price of, functional mushrooms, it's not something that I know. So that's the same thing is happening.
It is, but you have to realize a lot of people are sourcing their functional mushrooms from China, which has heavy metals and contaminants. So, and another thing that a lot of these functional mushroom companies are doing, you really need to know who you're buying your product from, because if it's not made in the U.S., so like all of our products are made in the U.S. by New England mushroom farmers. The stuff that people are getting from China, a lot of them aren't using 100% fruiting bodies, so with mushrooms, the fruiting bodies are above. That's what you see. They look like the physical mushrooms. And then below is the mycelium. A lot of companies are blending and grinding up the mycelium, and pieces of the substrate even get in it. It cuts your cost by about 90%, but what you're giving people isn't what you're telling them. So if you're going to take mushrooms, functional mushrooms, I really advise, whether it's my brand, anybody's, do your research and make sure you know where you're getting your product from and what's in it.
I need you to explain that to me a little bit further because you're telling me that I understand the difference between the mycelium and the fruiting body, and but you're telling me with functional mushrooms, the mycelium has no benefit?
It doesn't not have any benefit, but what you want is the fruiting body. That's where the benefits are, in the fruiting body. And a lot of people will grind up both together, or they'll use majority of the mycelium below in order to cut costs ultimately.
What's the deal with psychedelic mushrooms? Because I know for a fact that psychedelic mushrooms, the mycelium is still good. It's still going to do the same. It has, qualities that it's going to make you feel a little maybe different than the fruiting bodies, but there's
just a psychoactive component to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're telling me that in psilocybin mushrooms, the mycelium has the psychoactive component in it, has the psilocybin, but in functional mushrooms, there's no benefit to having the mycelium in the end product.
Well, so we don't have the mycelium. What's below the below the substrate, we cut on top of it.
Yeah, and so you're saying that whole thing is the fruiting body?
Yes,
the mycelium
exactly.
is what's down below, but like. The fruiting body. Okay, see, I was confused because like that's what I assumed. The mycelium is down, what's below the substrate.
It's like the rooting system. Yes.
And then the body of the mushroom. So that
that's
the whole thing
benefit.
The whole thing is the fruiting body. Then
exactly.
You're not talking about. So when you were saying it, I thought that the guests might get confused between the literal top of the mushroom, the head of the mushroom.
Oh, like
versus
the cap.
the stem, the cap and the stem.
Got you.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's basically what's above the substrate, which will be bird seed, grain, whatever people put below.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I see. Yeah. People use a lot of different things. Like same thing in cannabis. I've seen people use like the cocoa and, I've seen people use soil. What, the functional mushrooms that you're growing them, you're connected with all the farmers and it's all being done
in New England. Yep.
Now, do you guys deal with any like wild mushrooms at all, or
not as much? We really try to focus on the core, like I believe it's 6 functional mushrooms that let's see if I can get them right now. Lion's mane, reishi, chaga, cordyceps, maitake, and I feel like I'm missing one. But those are the core ones that we focus on, and we don't grow that ourselves. We have other people in New England that we trust. We've been to their facilities. We see how it's grown. That's where we source from.
Okay. And that's all above board because it's just functional mushrooms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you can find those anywhere. They're very trendy right now. There's thousands of mushroom species out there. Only 0.0004 are functional, and there's about 12 that are really staples in the functional mushroom movement.
Now the other ones are like edible.
Well, they have gourmet mushrooms, and then the functional mushrooms are kind of their own classification, but they can be functional and gourmet, such as lion's mane. A lot of people use that as an alternative for making their own version of steak or vegan steak. You know what I mean? So there's some that are dual, but as far as functional mushrooms, there's very few.
It surprises me that there's only 12. That I think there's probably more we just don't know about them.
There's so much research that needs to be done about all of this.
That's my understanding of it.
Right. I mean, it goes like I've kind of mentioned, deep down into the Western versus Eastern medicine and how we are and how we deal with symptoms versus prevention. And that's what these functional mushrooms are for. I mean, turkey tail was the one that I missed.
Turkey tail.
And that one's great for immunity. It's great for prevention for cancer. There's so many. It just blows my mind that we haven't been using all these products for years and seeking the benefit. I mean, our focus product that has lion's mane helps with ADHD and clarity and focus. Cordyceps are great for athletic performance and energy. And this is all stuff that's not impacting you negatively. When you think of the stuff, Adderall, I was put on Adderall at a very young age, and I mean, I would try not to take it. I felt that it was something that I didn't want in my system, and it made me feel robotic. I'm now getting the same benefits of mental clarity without having to take a pill every single day. It's very different.
From the cordyceps?
Yeah, I take the lion's mane and cordyceps.
Okay.
Yeah, those are my 2 favorite. I also do like the reishi because it's good for anxiety and calming, and I'm very high energy, so I do like that. Yeah, you'd benefit from them too.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to try some. And so, what about a company like Mudwater? The Mudwater. You know who they are?
Yeah,
that's like a big brand that you see everywhere that everyone's throwing. What are they about?
I don't know too much about their brand. I've heard really good things about them though.
So your company also does like a coffee, right? Like
Yep. Our biggest sellers are actually the chai latte and the coffee. We did just start doing a K-cup too for ease of access. We tried doing an instant. It didn't meet our taste standards. We're very strict about what we put out there.
What's the coffee about? Like, what is it? Like, is it just coffee mixed with ground up mushrooms?
It is. Yep.
Okay.
But the benefits, you will feel it. I mean, the thing about all these products is it normally takes 2 to 4 weeks to fully feel it. But I've had a couple people report back to me. One of my really good friends, her father had pain in his shoulder for so long and couldn't figure out what it was. And he ended up trying that one day, and it instantly started making him feel a bit better. So now he's been taking it daily, noticing a difference. It's like everybody's different. So it's so hard to say what exact benefit you will have the most. For me, it's been being able to kind of focus a bit more when I take the lion's mane in the morning. It just kind of helps me. And same with the reishi, because I'm so high energy, it just kind of mellows me out a little. But there's like different stacking regimens. Like our coffee has, I think it's about 5 of our functional mushrooms in it. So it's all about blending them and stacking and coming up with a regimen that works for you.
Tell you what, you guys got a great box design here.
It's not childproof, so.
Not childproof. Okay. Did you put any? Is there any coffee in here?
Yes, there is. Yep.
Okay, I want to check it out. Oh, you got to look. See the K cup. That's a great idea.
Yes,
there.
we're gonna be selling them in 12 packs. So
are you using a local coffee roaster?
Absolutely. Yep. We use local people for every single thing that we do. I have a big focus on community and keeping things local, and that's just kind of always been something I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
I think coming from Maine kind of instilled that in me from a young age.
Yeah, no, 100%. This is so Elevate Mushroom Coffee made with USA grown mushrooms, and you're telling me it's all grown in New England.
New England, yep.
Do you guys, because you're selling this, to the whole country, that's why you're saying USA.
Yes, yes.
But you're staying true to your people.
Exactly.
French roast coffee with mushroom extract blend of lion's mane, reishi, turkey tail, cordyceps chaga, and maitake. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's all of them.
Yep.
Okay.
You get all the benefits in one. And our chai latte is the same, and we actually have a matcha and another chai that doesn't have the latte aspect in it, so it's a little bit healthier. We also have the decaf versions of both, and then we have tinctures, non-alcoholic tinctures, and then a pet powder. So we're excited about that because I'm personally obsessed with dogs. So I'm excited to get going on that.
Do you have dogs?
I don't anymore.
Well.
I know. That's probably been the biggest sacrifice. Like when I talk about business and how hard I have to work, the biggest sacrifice that I have is that I don't have a dog because I know I couldn't give it the time that it needs. But I look at dog pictures every day.
Wait till if you ever, and do you have kids?
No, I do not.
Okay. Yeah, wait. If you do decide to ever have kids, I always said, I was like, I'm not going to be the person who, doesn't go take care of my dogs. And I still take care of them more than the other people with kids take care of their dogs, but I still don't get to them as much as I would like to, Mm-hmm. And I'm working a lot. I'm all over the place. And it's like, I do feel bad. And so I'm glad you're creating the pet powder.
Yeah.
You got any in there for them?
Yeah. No, not yet. Not yet. I'll send you some though.
Okay. No, awesome. I'm really excited to try the mushroom coffee, and I'm really excited to I think that functional mushrooms are really going to I do take functional mushrooms. I have a tincture that my friend makes for me, and a guy that I trust that's growing these mushrooms himself, and so I and he's doing a pretty small scale, which I think people can do this on a small scale. Like there's people, if you have if you want to do it as a hobby, you can start to grow mushrooms, and it's a really cool thing. And I think it's such a community building. Mm-hmm. The community building. I've been to all 3 of the Maine Fungi Fests. Mm-hmm. And the first one, we were in a small little gym.
I was there for that too, yeah.
Oh, I love it. It was great.
At the expo, right?
The Portland Expo Center, exactly. Yeah. And it was great. It was awesome. And it was like just people who were excited about this. You had people who were on the side of growing mushrooms from people who were doctors, and it was just like, oh, this is a great coming together of community. And that event has 10x'd each year. The next year is 10 the amount of people, and then this year is at Southern Maine University. And it was like, wow, this is beautiful to see how this is growing and to see how everything's being further incorporated into this. So you guys are creating and a part of a very large community. You're serving a lot. You're serving a lot of people.
Absolutely. And I was also at that initial one, and when I was there, that was just more motivation for me as I was going around talking to people, handing out samples. I was like, wow, all these people feel the same way that I do. This is going to be huge. So I kind of started putting more time into it then, and then each year it really has grown to where it was packed at that event this year. I'm very proud of them for what they've put on, and I think it's going to continue to get bigger and grow each year.
100%. Shout out to Jonathan at Moving On Productions.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a giddy up.
Yes, he is.
What an awesome human being, huh?
For real, yeah.
He's just someone who cares about art and community and people, and just seeing what him and his team do, I'm just always so impressed.
Putting on events of that caliber is extremely hard. I mean, I know from putting on events that have probably half or a third and are only a day long. So what he's doing for the community, I'm super grateful, and I think everybody else is too.
Yeah, 100%. What benefits have you seen directly from people that you've been giving the functional mushrooms to? What type of benefits have you? I know you explained the gentleman with the arm, but what are some of the other you're dealing with a lot of people. So what are some of the other benefits that people are seeing?
There's so many for anxiety, depression, just cognitive function, memory. We've started putting people on certain regimens because we work with guides. We're really trying to do everything that we do safely, and we also are doing a little bit of research in the psilocybin mushroom field too. And so we've noticed that stacking regimens with functional mushrooms and psilocybin at extremely low doses is causing insane benefits for people, even with Alzheimer's, with dementia, ADHD, bipolar disorder, PTSD. That's probably the most known one. But it goes even further because there's also insane benefits to macrodosing, and that's something that I would never do without guidance. You need a guide, somebody who has been doing this a long time. It's all psychoactive, so there's dangers to anything that you're using, and you always have to, use moderation and do things safely. And there's not a lot of info out there right now. So working with people that have gotten their ministers of churches, or they've been doing harm reduction and been working in this field for 20 of years, it's just so important to find the right people.
Yeah, people like Yeshua Adane from
It's exactly who I'm thinking of. Yeah,
from Sanctuary and his team. I'm actually going to have Eric Osborne on the show next week, who's the founder of Sanctuary.
Oh, awesome.
And so Yeshua founded the Maine chapter, and the original chapter started in Kentucky. In Louisville, Kentucky, and so I'm gonna talk with him, and we're gonna have another. I guess we're doing a whole mushroom series, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeshua is a pioneer, and he's somebody that we work closely with as much as we can. We trust him. He's an amazing person, and he's doing a lot for the community. And we're working together on workshops and educational events in order to offer people some of this info that they really haven't heard about. People come up to me all the time, tell me all about this. There's so much to mushrooms. Like I'm still not at a point where I know the amount that I wish that I do. And I've been working on this for 4 or 5 years. So we're trying to put the info out there, get people the education and resources that they need to understand it.
Which is great. And that's the way that it's going to happen. And it's like, it's just funny because there's always going to be pushback from people who are from the community that I was bred in, that they're going to be like, oh, well, we don't have the long-term clinical studies, the randomized control trials on this. And so we don't know. So just the fact that you're saying that, you're putting reishi with a little small microdose of psilocybin doesn't mean that anything's actually happening. And even though you've literally seen people have improvements with dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yes.
Personally.
And we're working with Yeshua actually to try to see if we can get the research, or we broaden the scope of the research and how we get it legitimately. There's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through, and yeah, we've seen the difference in people. And just even if we did a thing asking for testimonials, and the amount of people that reached out saying that these medicines have changed their life, it's enough to really keep moving forward on this movement, because it's really exciting.
It's so exciting. And also the people who are doing it, like you said, they're people who are so passionate about it. And there's some people who are probably looking just to make a buck, and those people definitely exist, and hopefully it gets weeded out. Cause I think cannabis went that way a lot, it was like the make a buck, and, and it's because you can't really control the molecule. So they're trying to figure out how to control the molecule. And I don't know if you likely are, but are you familiar with the Bay Staters from Massachusetts, a group?
I'm not actually.
Oh, they're cool. So they're Bay Staters. They used to be the Bay Staters for psychedelic medicine. Now they're just the Bay Staters, I believe. I could be saying that even wrong, but they're awesome. They're a group that's helped advocate in Massachusetts for the decriminalization in the in the jurisdictions down there. They're trying to put their whole model is it should be community based. You should be able to grow mushrooms at psychedelic mushrooms. One person should be able to grow it and then be able to share a certain amount with their friends.
Right.
And they should be able to do this openly, and we should be able to have places, because in Colorado and Oregon, it was people where they set up these facilities, and they had, people who were trained, as facilitators to come in, which the training cost a lot of money.
Right.
And then which, not that it shouldn't, not that the people shouldn't be trained, they absolutely should be, but experience is the best way. And so it should be more of like a, an apprentice, master apprentice model where people are, an apprenticeship, internship type of deal where people are learning, I think. But people, the model over there, it's like they were charging people like $2,000 for a gram of mushrooms, a gram of psilocybin. And so it just wasn't effective, and I think some of them are already having to shut up and close up. And I've seen that. And so I think like the powers to be, I don't know, like you're a business person, so you get it. You are, you're making money off of this. You plan to make more money off of this. And but you're doing it in like a wholesome way, I feel like. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who don't want that, who just want to create, create wealth for themselves. Or so I'm curious as to like what you think. Where will we end up here? Where will we end up? I think that the community-based model would be amazing, and where you could share it with your friends and you could grow it. And it's not this like huge, we have to go into a store and have this license and have this thing and all being tracked. And like, you want the testing 100%. You want everything to be safe. Like that's always the back and forth.
Right.
But, I'm really curious what your opinion is on that. I know that most of us associate the weather getting chilly with flu and cold season, but here at Dr. BeeWell, we call it bad sugar season. As Americans, we generally eat like shit. During this time of year, with the holiday and other related stresses, those horrible eating practices tend to get kicked into overdrive. We offer a solution in the form of full-spectrum RSO infused raw local honey because we shouldn't be walking around eating nerd rope all day. Why not let the bees handle the heavy lifting that your sweet tooth demands? I think it's fair to say that most people know how vital strength training is for long-term health and fitness, but find it hard knowing where to start. I'm here to say that also included me, Dr. Steve. You want to make sure you're doing exercises correctly, you don't want to get hurt, and you have no idea how to structure a workout program to get the best results. I've been there. In fact, this is where I found myself a few months ago. That's where On Target Fitness comes in. At On Target, every client gets their own custom strength program, tons of individual attention in their unique small group format, and the common sense nutrition and health coaching necessary to make a lasting lifestyle upgrade. As a new member of On Target, I'm not only seeing major changes in my body, but also my overall quality of life. In the past, I've struggled with using proper form. Well, let me tell you, whether it's Coach Joe or Coach Ryan, they've got you covered with technique. Even movement patterns as simple as walking have improved since I've started. When I was working out by myself without a program, I was often lost and lacked the motivation to challenge myself. Not at On Target. The energy and support in the group dynamic is truly game-changing. I have so much fun every time I work out. If you're ready for lasting change, don't hesitate to schedule a complimentary strategy session at www.ontargetfit.com. During this session, you'll learn a lot, make a plan, and only move forward if it's right for your budget, schedule, and goals. I met with Coach Katie, and she was awesome. So please, if you need that giddy up back in your life, get on over to ontargetfit.com and schedule your session today.
Business in general is a lot harder in our current economy. Where we are, the cost of living has gone up. The cost of operating a business has gone up. And so employees want to make more. Businesses need to make cuts. We're in a crazy time right now. So I think if everybody can get through the hump of 2024, maybe even 2025, it'll be smooth sailing. But we are in the same way in the cannabis market. It's very similar what we're going through.
Yeah, it's probably because it's like an election year and they need to fucking fuss us all up and, fuck us all up for no reason. And the cost of living has absolutely exploded. And I'm really glad to hear that you're doing that and that I'm not glad to hear that you're only covering your cost of overhead. I wish that you're making a little bit more money, but I'm really pleased that you guys have so much integrity and I'm glad that you guys are the ones who are doing it. Is there anyone else in the state who's producing to the same type of level, serving the same amount of customers that you guys are?
North Spore would be the closest. They're out of Portland, and they do functional mushrooms as well as they do the grow kit. That's their big claim to fame, and I would highly recommend buying one of their kits if you want to grow from home.
I love North Spore. I found out about those guys from the first Fungi Fest, and then we've been going back and forth. I've been trying to get them to come on the show, and we've been doing the dance for quite some time. But I'm definitely gonna make it happen because they seem awesome.
They're great people. I'd highly recommend it. They'd be able to talk about certain parts that I couldn't even touch base on because they're so versed in this.
like the inner workings of the mushrooms. And that's what
Exactly.
I'm really excited about that and learn even more about it. And like I said, I have a understanding of like how to read this stuff, and I look it up, but I'm not as like hands-on as they are. And I want to just get into that brain and get into the knowledge that they have there.
Yeah, a mycologist will blow your mind. I've spoken with so many, and I'm just like, wow, there is so much more that I still need to learn.
I think all of us need to learn. There's so much that the mushrooms like can do and teach, and like I'm sure like so many people have like heard of this, but like the mycelium, like they did this experiment in Japan where the mycelium, they took the subway, you know, they mapped out the underground of like the Tokyo system, and they put mushrooms in the mycelium, and the mushrooms made a more efficient path for them, like what they actually should be doing with their subway system. And it's like, whoa, like this stuff is so, it's so part of us. It's like the missing piece that people don't really think about, because like mushrooms, you know, they help break things down. You know, they're going to break things down, and they're going to, you know, and then they're going to grow, and they're going to, you know, the difference between like, you know, humans and plants, like we need to always understand that we have this other part, you know, fungi, and, you know, the functional mushrooms part of it is great. The psychedelic part of it is I've seen so many lives and so many people have their lives be changed, including myself, how much it's helped me personally. And the fact that it's like happening in my lifetime, like I didn't think it was going to be like maybe way later, but it's been expedited. It's been going pretty quick. And like do you see like where the community will be? Like, where do you think the community will be? And, you know, what do you think it will look like, you know, in the future?
You know, it's really difficult, because I'm hoping that we can all bind together and maybe even keep it decriminalized, just because of what happened with the cannabis industry. I mean, just learning from what we saw happen and how we can make this not happen. But it's very hard with mushrooms or even other plant medicine, because it grows naturally. So I'm not sure exactly how I would see the community. I just hope that everybody can collaborate and work together, and it doesn't turn into a me versus you, you know, or we're all having to compete against corporations just like we do in cannabis.
Yeah, you know, I don't want like it's like obviously bound to happen if it does become an industry, but it'd be better if it's just community based, like we've been saying. You know, it kind of just stays community based. People get super educated about it. There's people within the community like you, like Yeshua, who are, you know, bringing it forward and, you know, being able to help serve people. And you know, I think like, you know, having a guided experience is like, we've had people on the show talk about it, just how it's second to none. Like there's no medicine that really exists out there that can, you know, that can do these, you know, have these benefits for us. You know, it quiets the mind. It allows you to see, it gives you clarity. And for me, mostly it gives me different perspective, you know, so I can see, I might be feeling some way and I'm so stuck in a certain mindset. You know, I'm thinking this way, this is the only way to solve this problem, or this person is thinking this way and that's affecting me, or whatever. And then you know, you have an experience and you say, oh no, wait, this actually might not be the case. You know, they might just have been having a bad day, or, you know, I'm a good person, you know, all this stuff, like all this stuff that you can really, you know, hone in on yourself. And then, you know, if you don't do that, if you can have another experience where you just like go off and have fun, and that's fine too, you know, being out in nature, experiencing that, you're likely going to learn something, you know, from the inner experience as well. And I do think some people, like, you know, like traditionalists might say that like the guided experience is great, but it's also better to just get out there and to do it.
I was an alcoholic for 10 years. I ended up getting pancreatitis, completely shifted my entire life, because I was used to that as my crutch for social anxiety. So once I switched out of drinking, I didn't really know what to do. I had zero confidence, which was odd for me. I was somebody who always had confidence before drinking, and then during drinking, I had the most. And I started microdosing and using it in conjunction with functional mushrooms. And my life has completely changed. I didn't have a single business then. I was pretty much living off of my parents, lived at my mom's house. Now I have my own place. I have land in a couple states. I'm doing really well for myself. I mean, granted, nobody's doing as well as it looks online, but you know, it's really changed my life. And when I talk with other people and hear of similar stories, it makes me so passionate about what I do and about moving this whole movement forward and building this community where we can all lean on each other and talk to each other and kind of figure out how we can get this knowledge and information out more and get people access to the medicine.
I think that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest benefit that people can get from this. Like in the short term, is the people who are alcoholic, borderline alcoholic, who feel like they can't go out and they can't be social and they can't stop drinking because they go out and then they want to have that little giddy up to be able to be comfortable in themselves. And that's what I was saying by perspective. The perspective shift. So you take the mushrooms and you're sitting there and you're like, oh wait, I don't need to drink to go talk to this person. I can just be myself and talk to them. Or I don't really feel like talking to that person, so I don't need to. I can get myself out of this conversation. And so it's this. It's funny. My uncle, he hasn't done it yet. But he's been wanting to stop drinking. My family has rampant pancreatitis. My sister actually, she had pancreatitis her whole life. She ended up getting a serious surgery because of the pancreatitis called a Whipple, where they remove half your duodenum. They remove some ducts in your pancreas, your gallbladder, and so she ended up passing away a few years ago from complications.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. She's here with us now. So it's a giddy up. But my uncle, my family has this history of it, and he's been going through this, and I don't get to see him a ton, but when I see him, I'm like, dude, please, and every time I see him, I bring him a little bit, and I say, just please, just take this, when instead of drinking, and he's up for it, and I think at some point he probably will, and make the move, and because I've talked to, literally, guys, I've talked to hundreds of people who have told me this, hundreds of people who have told me that they have healed, from alcoholism, that they have been able to do this through microdosing of mushrooms. It's psilocybin mushrooms. It's like, okay, that's all the evidence that I need, and I know that just because it gives me clarity in my own life.
Right.
It's like they said, alcohol was your drug of choice. Opiates were my drug of choice.
Right.
So I know how this goes, and I'm actually grateful that it exists, because for a while I had experiences with mushrooms in high school and in college, and I had these profound experiences on a macro dose, and I said, wow, that is something I'm going to do every year for the rest of my life, less once a year or whatever. That's just what I said in my head, because it was so clarifying, it was so perceptive shifting. And then I got sick, I got into my stuff, and I was sick, and I thought, oh wow, I have to completely abstinence, no drugs at all, no drugs, at all. And I don't even call, mushrooms, I guess, can be an illicit drug, I guess, but it at the same time, I don't even consider it that at all.
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. I consider it the most powerful compound that we know of, that we know that is, easily accessible to millions and millions of people. There's so much trauma and drama in this country right now and in this world right now. And we say it a lot. If we took two of the world leaders, these people, and we put them together and we gave them some mushrooms, and then they would try to be themselves, and they couldn't, they would try to do what they usually do and lie and do all their manipulation, and then they wouldn't be able to physically do it, and they would come up with this beautiful solution of love and togetherness.
Right. I totally agree. Maybe they could even use an ego death dose.
Yes, right, and so an ego death dose is like a macro dose that you literally you just you dissolve into that ego that is always protecting us, and it is a thing that is there to protect us, and to help us move through the earth. But it's time when you need to know to separate yourself from the ego and not have it be driven, and the world is so ego driven right now.
It is. And it's cool with mushrooms too, because I feel like everybody has their own regimen. I feel like that with pharmaceuticals, it's, hey, you take this every day at this time. It's very structured. I normally do 3 days on, 4 days off. We usually recommend 5 days on, 2 days off, but everybody's different. I do 3 days on. I do a very low dose. I do 100 milligrams, 0.1 grams of psilocybin. So it's not very much. And then I do once a month about a gram's worth. And that's just, I have a terrible time relaxing. I'm always in go mode, can't shut my brain off, struggle to sleep. That's where my passion for cannabis came in, because I think there's many benefits on that aspect for cannabis and pain relief. But everybody's different with it. My dose is that's kind of what's worked for me. My fiance is a little bit different. He'll do probably 5 days on, 2 days off, and then he doesn't do any larger dose. And then one other person that I work with, they don't do microdoses. They do a heavy 3-gram dose every 3 months as a reset. So it's just, everybody's different. You got to figure out how it works for you, what's best for you. And going to people like Yeshua, or I also have somebody I work with named Cheyenne. They're amazing people that are able to talk with you and kind of help you figure out what regimen you need.
People don't necessarily realize, like, when you say like 100 milligrams, that's sub-perceptual a lot of the time, right? Like, you're not even,
Yes.
it's not, it's something's happening and there's benefits taking place. You're moving through life a little easily, but you don't feel like, holy shit, I took something, like what you would feel if you took a gram of mushrooms, then you might feel like, oh, okay, I definitely took something here, or something's changing. But a lot of these microdoses can be sub-perceptual.
That's the ultimate point of a microdose, is sub-perceptual. So a lot of people will take just a gummy or a half a gummy and be like, I didn't feel anything, it didn't do anything. Well, you're not supposed to feel altered. You're not supposed to see colors. You're not supposed to have the wall talking to you. That is not a microdose. A microdose is sub-perceptual. You will just feel a slight mood elevation and kind of balanced, level, and at peace. That's kind of how I feel with it. I'm somebody who, I had road rage for years. Since I started microdosing, I'll still get annoyed here and there. I'm not going to act that innocent, but it really has helped me be calm, be more present, which are things that I struggle with.
Yeah, it's truly like a groundbreaking medicine that way, and it's been around forever. We've been using it for these reasons for literally forever, and at some point we just got, like, the majority of the world, or kind of got lost away from it, even though there was plenty of people who have always been pushing this forward and been a part of this community.
Well, it's hard for people to profit off something that's natural. And we all know that.
Yeah, it's like, that's the thing, is like capitalistic democracy is like really beautiful. It's like probably the best one that we figured out so far. But that's the downside of it, is like that it's, we could be such healthier people, we could be, as a whole, I think. But it's just when there's not money to be made, it's not always, there's so much that goes against the ability for people to get access to it, to get access to safe medicine, to get access to even understand the knowledge behind it, to not have negative propaganda that's out there,
right,
which existed for so long. And like, that's what I try to get to tell, like, a lot of my older people who are interested in it. It's like, guys, like, it's a lot of times it's gonna be sub-perceptual, and like, and if it is, like, I'm here with you. It's like, we're not gonna, nothing bad's gonna happen. I promise you, nothing bad's gonna happen.
We're just a society that's used to the pharmaceutical drugs, though, that we've been a part of for so long, and in those you feel an effect. And so I think that's, most people are just expecting to feel, or they expect the medicine to do all the work for them. They're still integrating. There's still intention when you're taking the medicine. We've just created this journal that's going to go out with our functional and all of our products and everything. That'll be a great way for people to kind of mark their intention. And it's almost like a little journal of, what did this do for me? Because if you're just taking the medicine and expecting it to do all the work, I mean, that's our medicine to a T, the Western medicine. It's, you really have to kind of be there, be preventative, kind of work with the medicine. You can't just expect everything to come to you and be instant. And that's the hugest issue with our society in general. We want fast, instant, yeah,
instant gratification. And two, there are a lot of medicines, you said that they feel, like, some medicines make you a feel effect, and I think that those are the ones that people can get addicted to. There are side effects that you'll feel from some medicines, but like the actual, like, you don't feel a blood pressure medicine usually, when you're taking it. Like, if you have really high blood pressure, I forgot about
that. Yeah.
if you have really high blood pressure, really high hypothyroid, like, you might feel a little bit better, like, you might feel a little bit better because it was so high. But like, people who are getting treated for this, like 80 to 90% of them aren't at levels where it's like making them have negative symptoms, really. It's just, this is the lab value, and hey, we need to start treating this, and here's this pill. And it's the lazy model. It's like, you just don't think about it. You take this, and I'm healthy because I take this pill, opposed to being like, no, I need to engage in my health a little bit. I need to be an active participant here. And I think that mushrooms make you do that. Psilocybin makes you do that. It makes you think that way. And like, even people who want to, like you said, even people who want to just take it and say, like, it's going to work on you. It's going to start to work on you because it's going to make you start to think that way and make you start to, and guess what? That's when you should act. That's when you should start to say, okay, Oh, no, you should start to act beforehand if if you can. But I'm just saying, if you're a person who just took it to experiment it, and then start acting right away, start journaling, start writing, start understanding that, like, okay, this is the stuff that I thought of, this is stuff that I want to work on. Just because you think of it doesn't mean it's going to change. You need to actually work on it and say, oh, my brain was telling me, that I need to work on this, that I need, and this is a cool solution to work on this, but I actually need to do the work to actually do that. And I that's why people like Yeshua and other guides and other people are great, because they help people go through this. They help people understand this, that like, this is the way to do this. This is the process to go this. If you want to have a, you're dealing with something in life, this is the process of how to go through it, how to work with the medicine to get it to, to help you on the other side. It
kind of becomes a lifestyle, kind of shifting your views. I used to be a lot more negative, kind of shifting towards positivity. I used to be, everybody's selfish, but I used to be even more selfish, especially when I was drinking. I now see a therapist once a week, all stuff that you couldn't have paid me to go see a therapist years ago. But why would I not work on benefiting and improving and growing myself? If I'm going to spend an hour smoking weed at night, or I don't know if it's always an hour, but if I'm going to spend my me time, why not spend the time to work on yourself? And that's something, I think it's becoming way more accepted now, but it always had this negativity towards it, or, oh, you have a problem if you go see a therapist. But for me, going to therapy, learning more about myself, becoming aware of all of my traumas or issues that I've had, and then being able to use it in combination with microdosing and functional mushrooms, I really am a complete different person. And I'm a huge advocate for people going and trying to get into therapy, or even talking with people, because holding it all in, it's just not good for you. And I did that for way too long and just resorted to drinking and substances to not have to think about what was in front of me.
How long did it take you to find the mushrooms once you stopped drinking alcohol?
It was pretty quick, because I've always been into mushrooms. It was more, back in the day, it was more college. Let's do a dose and go to an event or something like that. But I'd already heard about microdosing. My fiance had done it before, and he had constantly been like, why don't you try it? Why don't you try it? And at first, I actually was more closed-minded to it. I'm like, no, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to take a big amount on a sunny day, and I'm going to do painting and art. But it really, I trusted what he said. I was like, let me try it, because it worked so well for him. And that's when it became awesome. I spoke with my business partner, who was already heavily into mushrooms. He had the idea of wanting to do the mushrooms. And then it was like, well, let's team up. I love the branding, marketing. We work so well together. So, and I will say, it's a little off topic, but we have the best team. And that's so hard to build. It took us a long time, but like the people that work for us and work with us and partner, and Yeshua, Cheyenne, all these people, it's all amazing people that we're working with, and we really feel that the energy and the power of what you're doing, it'll all come back. So that's kind of how we feel with everything.
That's still that's a giddy up.
It is.
That's a giddy up, and like you said, you're building it out. And my next question is, like you said, so had you tried stopping drinking before? Have you?
Funny story. No, definitely not. I thought I was going to drink every day the rest of my life. If most people in college would laugh if they see this now. I was known for having a water bottle full of vodka wherever I went. What was the question?
No, it's all good. So the question was, had you tried stopping? Because I know, like, a lot of people with alcoholism, a lot of people with drug addiction, they try to stop and then they're not able to stop.
Yep. So there was no awareness of needing to stop. I didn't consider myself an alcoholic. I considered myself just excessive, or I just like to party, which is an easy way around dealing with what's in front of you.
Wow. You weren't even trying to stop. You just were, you said like, oh, not. Like this, I'm just going to do mushrooms. And then the mushrooms told you needed to stop.
Well, so I got pancreatitis.
That's right. Yep.
That same day in the hospital, they were like, you need to stay for more tests. I was still kind of drunk waking up. I was like, hell no, I'm out of here. I walked out. I went and drank that same day. I drank the next week or so. I started getting stomach pains when I was drinking, and my fiance was like, he wasn't my fiance at the time. We were just seeing each other, and he was like, you need to like stop this. Like, I don't want anything to happen to you. So him coming to me, and then he was also a heavy drinker then too. We both former issues with all of this. And he was like, I'm done drinking because I don't want you to drink anymore. So, because he would drink and then, okay, well, I'll have some. And so he was a huge reason that I stopped. And then he had already been microdosing and was like, hey, try this. So I kind of cut cold turkey off of it kind of a little bit at first, which surprisingly didn't go as bad as I thought. But the microdosing, I then picked that up almost the same week. So I'm sure that kind of helped with any type of withdrawal effects. But I will say mentally, that is a big shift for somebody when you're used to using alcohol as a crutch the way that I did, waking up drinking, doing it all the time, to not. I was a mess,
Oh, you went from, I say you're a person who's like drinking in the daytime and having a water bottle full of vodka, and like, sneaky, you were alcoholic, sneaky drinking.
Absolutely.
And stuff. Yeah.
I was in my college classes drinking.
Yeah. And that's the thing is you were always just self-medicating, for the ADHD or, whatever was going on in your brain. And like, you just were self-medicating. And that's what we were all, like a lot of us were doing. We just wanted to be a little bit more comfortable in our bodies. And this thing helped. And like, guess what? That thing is fucking super destructive. Alcohol is super destructive. So
I can't even get started on that because I could go on about that for a while. Just the fact that that's legal, and then these other, it's
the drug that causes, if you do it excessively, is going to cause pancreatitis. If you took mushrooms every day, guess what, guys? Like if you microdosed every day, nothing bad's gonna happen.
I mean,
nothing bad's gonna happen.
How many people have died from weed? You
right,
know what
exactly.
I mean? How many people have died from drinking? Whole different story.
It's endless amounts, and like it's so sad. And so like I always advocate if anybody's a heavy drinker, binge alcoholic, alcohol, whatever, binge drinker, alcoholic, borderline alcoholic, start smoking weed, start taking edibles, or don't do both, don't just get more fucked up, but if you can't do it completely cold turkey and you don't, and you want it, you need something else. That's not the abstinence only model. Isn't the only model. And if you can do something that's less destructive to your life, less destructive to your family, less destructive to your society, that's good.
Well, and I will say a lot of it's denial and becoming aware of it, because I was in denial for so long. I mean, if I hadn't have gotten pancreatitis, guaranteed I'd still be drinking every day right now, and I would not be in a good mental place. So it's hard for me to look back. It took me a long time to even use the word alcoholic, because I was just like, no, I was just having fun. Like, I wasn't addicted to drinking. I was addicted to partying and having fun. But, when it comes down to it, I was an alcoholic. I had to drink all the time. It was a crutch for me. And I think we all have vices and crutches, but some are healthier than others, and everything in moderation. And that will always be my struggle, is moderation, just because of the ADHD and the excessive, and I want to do something. Okay, well, I really like pizza from this place. Well, I'm going to order it every day for 3 weeks until I'm sick of it. So it's just how I operate. And so learning the mushrooms have kind of helped me slow down with a lot of that and be like, you don't need a million things at once. It's not going anywhere.
Training your brain differently.
Yes.
Using tools to help train your brain differently. And that's what's so great about it. That's what's so amazing. Like you said, I'm ADHD, they say that a lot with people. Like, you get hyper-focused on the food, and I'm the same way. It's like, this is the best food ever. It's the greatest thing ever. And then by like the 20th day, you're like, I'm not eating that ever again. It's like, so it's over. It's over for me, right?
It's like the phases.
100%. And like so it's this, this medicine has helped me. The mushrooms have helped me so much. With those regards, and to get confidence in myself, just to know like, oh, I don't need to make those decisions. I don't need to eat. For me, sometimes it's food. Like I said, I eat so much food, I overeat, and
I do too.
I want to eat. I want to feel good. I want the dopamine. Give me the dopamine. Yeah. And like when I'm able to, when I'm in a good place and I'm doing my microdosing, and I'm like, why would I don't need that. And I'm full. Yes. I already had dinner. I'm good to go. I'm going to go get some rest. Or if I'm probably just bored. So
I was just about to say, some of it's boredom. We need something to do at all times.
Yeah, exactly. I need something to do. So I can relate with it so much, Haley, like, and I think your story is one that like really will hit home with a lot of people. Like, you're a pioneer, you're doing things a little differently, but then you're also like the rest of the people who are regular industry people in any type of job, or just any type of working job where, they're going to the bar and they're, getting out of themselves with alcohol. And like, it's, I do think it's happening. There's a shift happening where like alcohol is, getting phased out. There's more people, there's a bunch of people who are sober curious. It's a term that I love. There
was just an article that came out, I believe, that now cannabis use is is more than alcohol use.
Wow.
Somebody just told me that yesterday, so I don't have the source or anything, but I was like, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, me neither. I had a friend yesterday who like wasn't, was a, big drinker, not a big drinker, but would drink, and, when he came home from work and stuff, and now he's taking edibles. And I'm like, that's good. It's really good, because alcohol is way worse for you. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. You don't really realize just how bad it is. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's not like I didn't go to a million DARE classes when I was a child and learn plenty about everything. But when it came to alcohol, you don't realize that you're truly just poisoning yourself. And like, people would say that to me, oh, you're going to not be able to drink this way for the rest of your life. Like, there was no getting through when you are in that mindset. And so it's going to be very hard for some people, but I wish, or I hope that with more information coming out there, and we're even going to work to start seminars and stuff like that for former addicts or people. And we're trying to do different initiatives where we're getting money and funding or providing people free access to medicine that are addicts, because we really genuinely want people to be able to experience the benefits and see what we see. I mean, mental health is a disaster right now in our world. So how do we work to get back grounded? How do we work to become a community? In my opinion, it's plant medicine.
Yeah, I'll definitely join you on that. If you need any help or whatever, you let me know. 100%.
Absolutely.
I'll join that mission, because that's great. Like, you want to know what? Like, I'm a person who's been to rehab. I've done that. For drugs, and so I know that's a good model that exists. But like, it would be better off if like I could just bring these people to up to Yeshua, and to bring them there.
Who I
that.
see as the person helping. Yeah. Yeah, Yeshua is just amazing at what he does. You got to have him on here.
And I'm 100%.
Okay, I was going to say.
We're working on it. We're working on it. And so he but there's 1,000 million Yeshuas. So Yeshua is amazing and great, but there's so many guides and so many people who can help people. And I think that would just be so much, have such greater impact on the world and addiction and mental health. And like, I know that it's going to be the case, and I know you do too. I'm so glad to have had you on today, and I think that it's amazing. And where do you what is the ultimate goal for your companies, for Elevate, and for all the the wellness that you're bringing people through mushrooms?
So I've kind of touched base on it a bit, but I really think just kind of building that community and having everybody kind of be able to get access to the information and education about all of this. I've kind of really put a lot of emphasis on that. We do a lot of marketing material and trying to get information out there to people. Of course, I hope that it becomes a known national brand out of my own just drive and wanting to build something large. But what I really want is that brand to be able to get a bunch of people from all over in a community where we're able to communicate and bounce ideas off each other and kind of realize we're not the only ones going through all the things that we're going through. And I mean, how can we work together to have a better life? Because the current life that we live in, it's been a bit of a struggle for everybody for the past few years. I don't know anybody who's like, I'm in the best position ever of my life. You know what I mean?
I think that it's that's a super lofty goal, right? It's also one of my goals, and but people like normally would look at us and be like, okay, fuck off. That's a really hard goal. You're gonna bring this community together and make everybody happy and all. And it's like, so normally it's like that's such a far-fetched thing. With the mushrooms, not the case.
Agreed.
It's here. It's literally here, and we can find it, and we can go get it. And I'm just super grateful to you for providing that to people and get, opening that up and making it a thing that's, you're normalizing it. That's what your company is doing. You're normalizing it for people. You're making it so that they can know that it's okay, so that if they're, the person who's questioning it a little bit, okay, there's great resource on your website. There's great resource to connect you to other people. You guys are active, on your social medias. People know who you are. You're going to events, you're going to festivals, and it's we need people like you, because without people like you and your team, we wouldn't be as far along as we are now. And there would be more, more corruption, more BS coming in, people more just trying to make a buck, and
right.
That's not what this is about. And it's about literally healing people and healing this world. And I'm constantly, sometimes I'm pessimistic, but this makes me a constant optimist. It makes me always feel like we have a path forward.
I agree. And yeah, I mean, I think speaking from the community as well, very appreciative that you're thinking of a whole mushroom series, because you're able to get the word out there too just as much. I mean, it just takes all of us speaking up and talking to a friend and letting them know that they're not alone. Why don't you at least try this? What does it hurt to try? You know what I mean? And it's great though, because I notice I talk about it with somebody, they start seeing benefits, and then they talk about it with people. So it's a lot of it's word of mouth, and the people seeing the impacts on the people their loved ones and being like, wow, I should try this too. So a lot of it's just getting it all out there. And luckily, we're at a place in society where we have technology that allows us the ability to get a much further reach. So I do foresee mushrooms becoming a huge, huge, huge thing in our society going forward. It's just going to take a little bit more time.
Yes, and you just gave me a great idea that I'm going to bring one of these guides, whether it's, Yeshua and I are going to do an episode with him, but one of these guides, bring them on. Maybe it's Cheyenne, maybe it's someone else, whoever, and I'm going to have them, we're going to do it. We're going to do it live. I'll take some mushrooms and then we're going to bring somebody on who's entirely, mushroom naive. Maybe it's the proprietor of this place, the owner of Rebel House, Scott. I know he's never engaged in that. Maybe we'll get him on.
Yeah, let's go.
Get in here and be our guinea pig. But, that is something that I would love to do.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do it because it will show people in real time that, hey, this isn't that dangerous. It's not as dangerous as you think. And hey, it might be a 4-hour podcast, but a 4-hour hangout session. But like just putting that out there into the world, I think is a really cool and necessary thing. And I know that I could cultivate it. I know I could find the comfortable participants that all want to do that.
And any help you need in that, I got you, both the product and I know of people that would do it. I would even be involved if you ever wanted. Let's do it. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, let's do it. We're gonna plan that, and we'll do it in a beautiful session. We'll get some maybe we'll even pass some microphones around. We'll have like a couple. Maybe we'll do it with a couple of people. We're gonna broadcast this. This is gonna be great, and I'm so grateful to you for that help.
No, of course.
Where can the folks find you if they're interested in following you and following your brands? Where can they find you?
Yeah, the main platform I use is Instagram, even though I'm on pretty much every other platform. My Instagram handle is @HaleyC. It's because of the THC, because when I first got onto it, I was very heavy in cannabis. You can go to at Elevate Mushrooms to follow our functional page. At Earth Air Cannabis for that, at Maine Women's Connection for my women's nonprofit, and then at level.md to find out more about microdosing and the research that we're doing in that field.
All right, folks, you hear that? It's either Haley THC, it's Level MD, it's Elevate Mushrooms. It's Earth Air Cannabis. This has been an amazing episode. You are doing amazing things for the people and for the great state of Maine and beyond. I can't wait to continue to work with you and to continue to spread this message of growth, of healing, of love, through an incredible product and incredible medicine that you guys are providing for people.
Looking forward to it also, and thank you so much for having me.
Giddy up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to us today. This is definitely going to be a part of a mushroom series that we're putting out on the Dr. BeeWell channel. Please, please, please make sure to subscribe. I know that I have a lot of you guys that are listening, and that makes me feel amazing and makes me feel great, but you got to subscribe for me. Just hit the like button, send this episode to a friend, send it to somebody you love. Seriously, send this one to someone you love because they might need it. Reach out to me always, Dr. BeeWell, if you need anything. And until next time, we love you. Giddy up.